All right, welcome guys to episode number 40 of Black Coffee and Crime. Thank you for joining us again this week for another episode. This week is going to be a little bit different. Normally, what we do is we talk about cases that have been established and adjudicated and are kind of historical and maybe just a little obscure so we can bring you something that you haven't really heard about or talked about before. But this week, given all the things that are happening, we are actually going to talk about a current story, and it's it's bad. So if you have watched the videos this week or you're triggered by conversations about serious violence, please exit stage left and come back for another week on a different week for a different episode. But today we're going to talk about Ma'Khia Bryant, the 16-year-old girl that was shot on April 20th in Columbus, Ohio, and then all the other police shootings that followed for the rest of the week. So these are developing stories. We might not have a lot of information, but we definitely are heavy on opinion. So we'll definitely be talking about that. But let's start off. My name is Brandy, and we have also another Brandy and Jackie joining us this week as well, as always. So um, that was kind of our disclaimer for the week. Church announcements are as follows. Please obey your pastor. No, respect your pastor and always obey your ushers. Do we have any new business for church announcements this week? Nothing.
No, we did buy a doorknob for the vestibule door, thanks to the building fund donation. We were able to
You're
purchase
all
a doorknob.
yes. We're gonna if you need an accounting of all the funds and where they are allocated, please let us know. We'll have the church secretary send those
We
out.
got the right doorknob. We need to get the left doorknob, so
Yeah,
y'all
we're
got to
still
keep
working
on
on the
getting.
left. We start off with the right first, and then we take the center second on the left side. So
Brother Charles got to use two different keys to lock the sanctuary because we only got one new doorknob.
well, Brother Charles walking around with all the keys in his pocket anyway, so I don't think he knows.
Yeah, rattling.
He interrupted choir rehearsal last week with all that rattling. We didn't know what key we was on last week as Brother Charles in there. All right. So those are the announcements as follows. Again, if you need an accounting of all funds and where they are allocated, please see your church secretary and we'll get those to you by the end of the business week. All right. So last week we talked about Sam Cooke, and we also, we were awaiting. We were one day when we recorded the show last week. We were one day away from a verdict. We didn't know that we were one day away from that verdict, but that verdict came in on for the Derek Chauvin case. Came in on the 20th, and he was convicted on all three charges. What it was like manslaughter, second degree murder,
Third,
non
some
yeah, second degree non intentional murder, third degree manslaughter, and something else. And so the sentencing phase hasn't started on that. But something very interesting has happened after the verdict. And the verdict was kind of bittersweet because we don't know what the sentencing is going to be. But seems like every day last week since that, there's been a police shooting. Every single day. As a matter of fact, on the same day, an hour before the verdict came out, young girl, Ma'Khia Bryant was shot by an officer in Columbus, Ohio, which is sparking much controversy on whether it was justified or not. What happened? How did she end up here? So we're definitely going to talk about that and give our opinions today. Um, Everything that we talk about today is basically in the news right now in a developing story. So as we get the news, you'll be getting the news. But today we're just going to talk about how we feel about it. And that's it. So if you have any comments, again, keep them respectful. We try to be respectful for everyone, to everyone. Please reciprocate that across the internet. And if you have any comments, please use YouTube. Our comments on YouTube, also Facebook and Instagram at Black Coffee Crime. And also you can send us an email at info@blackcoffeecrime.com. All right. So before we start on the police shootings, um, at the beginning of the year, we talked about a story. Our very two first stories of 2021 were about Move, which was a separatist group in Philadelphia. In the late 1970s, There was a shootout with members of Move, and so they kind of broke up. But then in like 1983, 1984, they rebanded and moved to a property on Osage Avenue in Philadelphia. In 1985, the city of Philadelphia bombed their compound, destroyed several city blocks, dozens of homes, and killed at least 13 people, six adults, and five children. Well, what was that, Brandon? Like 3 days ago? About
Hmm.
3 days ago, there was an article about the remains of two of the children that were killed in that bombing in 1985 were being used in an anthropology class at Princeton. Let me say that again. The remains of two of the children that were killed in the 1985 move bombing in Philadelphia, were being used as anthropological studies.
That's our thought on it right there. You see,
You
it
mean
is.
to tell me that people, children that were killed less than 40 years ago, are
Hmm.
being used as anthropological studies? Is that okay? Is that ethical?
No,
I just don't.
not at all.
The way that I understand this is from, I read an article from New York Times. There's also an article on Billy Penn, which is a newspaper, and then also the Philadelphia Examiner, I believe. I can go back and take a look at that. But basically, in 1985, when the bombing happened, there was a doctor at University of Pennsylvania. He was given the remains of the children to act as an independent medical examiner, basically to analyze the bones or the remains of the children. There wasn't a complete skeleton that was found, but there were remains to try to identify them. Well, if you knew there were five children and you identified the other three children, then necessarily you would be able to identify the remains of the others.
Hmm.
Well, after 1985, of course, DNA testing wasn't really what it is today. The doctor, Dr. Mann, kept them. He kept them, and he never gave them back.
Like, why would he want to keep them? I don't understand why he wants to
Yeah.
keep.
What would it be the purpose of keeping them?
I don't know. The Dr. Mann and another doctor, Dr. Janet Mong or Mong or something like that, or Mongu or something like that. It'll be in the article. Sorry for the mispronunciation. But she became the assistant director for physical anthropology at the University of Pennsylvania. And there's a museum called the Penn Museum. They had possession. They had been the remains have been transferred to the museum, and there were lots of studies done. Once DNA kind of advanced and everything to try to identify the
Hmm.
remains. But Dr. Mann they gave them back to him. The current director wasn't aware of this until April 1st when he got the job. He says in one of the articles that people who worked for the museum had always known that those remains were there. Like it was a thing. They knew that they were there. But the problem is you never return these remains to the families.
Family.
I don't understand.
Do we know what the family has? The family said anything?
Yeah. Or
Well, Michael
statement.
Jr. Um, he was, his mother and father were the subject of the documentary 40 Years a Prisoner, and his parents ended up, doing 40 years. He spoke out and basically, in disgust, like you need to return them. Like the bombing itself was such a horrible blight on the city of Philadelphia and a humanitarian disaster, basically, civil rights disaster. And then you compound it with the fact that you kept the bones of these children and used them without permission of the family, without regard of the children and their remains, and it's just horrible. So basically, he's expressed disgust and anger. If you go to his Instagram, I think it's Mike Africa Jr. I believe. I'll go ahead and tag him uh, in the notes. But if you go to his Instagram, he's very vocal about this. It's just horrible, y'all.
As he should be.
And another bad part of this is that the bones of the children, which was 14-year-old Tree Africa and 12-year-old Delisha Africa. Um, how do you know their names now, but you didn't then? Because once the moment that you found out who they were, they should have been returned to the family. Period. Um, but their remains were found along with the remains of several 19th century skeletons of African Americans who were used for anthropological studies to basically prove white supremacy. So phrenology, if you guys are not familiar with what phrenology is, it's a pseudoscience that basically the Nazis were using to measure certain points on the face, like your nose and the distance between your eyes and all of this to prove white supremacy and the purity of white blood, shit like that.
And
So
that's what I was
basically,
going to say, that holding these bones reminded me of that time when either with using them as a scientific experiment or parading them around from place to place to place.
hmm hmm um, that's what happened with Sarah Barton,
Sarah
who's
Bartman. Hmm.
the Hottentot Venus. She had very pronounced buttocks and very pronounced genitalia, and she was used as a circus act. And when she died, it got even worse because they cut off her labia and they put it in a jar
Yep.
and they paraded that around. It is still somewhere in somebody's museum or somebody's closet somewhere at a museum in a jar.
I think they were talking about returning it to her people or her village or her
As
whatever.
they should.
I can't remember if
As
that
they
actually was
should.
done.
I don't know how up people are on their history, but they used to have human museums in the United States at the Bronx Zoo, where um, Africans and people of African descent were on display, like live people. And white people could go around and point at them and look at them and say, "Ooh, look at," yeah, yeah. So that's what we're talking about here. This kind of indignity. And for those who are saying it doesn't matter, damn you, it does matter.
Period.
This is less than 1985 people, 1985. So these people would have been in their mid 50s.
Hmm.
These Tree and Delisha could have had um, grandkids by now. Delisha wouldn't even be 50 yet because she wasn't that
Nope.
much older than me. So these are people that you could have gone to school with if you're our age. If you're 40 plus, these are your contemporaries. And these children were used in anthropological studies. Like I said, the two people who were using it at Princeton and at University of Pennsylvania, they did not make comments. So um, the more we get on that story, the more we'll talk about it. All right. All right. So let's get on to the part that's we might argue about this. We may have differences of opinion. So on last Tuesday on the 20th, uh, if you listen to the radio, watch TV, you were, kind of at the edge of your seat. Uh, Minneapolis police were in force out on the streets waiting to see what the verdict was going to be in the Derek Chauvin case for the
Hmm.
trial of George Floyd. Well, it was kind of anticlimactic because he was found guilty, and it was like I don't know if it was jubilation. I wasn't jubilant. I was just kind of like it was a sigh of release because that meant that at least this time the jury got it right for whatever reason that they convicted this man. Um, they got it right, and then there was no additional protesting, which would have led to police violence because the protesters for BLM largely aren't violent, and it just turns that way because of agitators. So it was just kind of like a sigh of release. I really, I didn't watch any parts of the trial. I saw little sound bites, but I didn't watch it. So, and I didn't watch the verdict. Did any of you watch the verdict, or how did you?
I watched the verdict. I did not watch the trial. I just mentally could not handle watching the trial. I couldn't handle watching the video over and over again. And truthfully, I was preparing myself for him to get off like everybody else, like
Yeah.
all the other officers. So I wasn't even trying to like really put a lot of energy into it because I just cannot handle. I mean, I've been on like a news fast the past 3 weeks because I've just been overwhelmed with news coverage. So,
Yeah.
but I didn't think he was going to get off. Let me say, I didn't think he was going to be found guilty.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see that he actually was found guilty, even with all the overwhelming evidence we've seen before that it doesn't matter. They'll get off for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So
apparently,
I did not watch the trial. I didn't even watch clips.
I thought the same thing. I thought he was gonna get off. I mean, I honestly thought it was just gonna be a typical. I did not watch the trial. I did not watch the verdict. I didn't want to. I was already pissed off when I watched a little bit of the trial, and I just didn't want to deal with it. And I assumed, like he assumed, that he was gonna get off because I mean, the look on his face was very shocked. Like, what? Huh? What you mean?
He was literally the meme, the blinking guy. That was Derek Schultz. Like, wait, what happened? What do you mean? And the internet was real quick. The internet is
yes, they are undefeated.
Right on top of that. But yeah, I don't think he thought most of us in America didn't think he would be convicted because we don't have faith in the justice system. Think about one of the very first beatings on video, what we can remember in modern internet era is Rodney King.
Mm-hmm.
And there were several officers who dragged that man out of that car and beat the living daylight. I mean, he had brain damage, and he was affected by that until the day that he passed away. And those officers walked, pretty much. They pretty much walked. I mean, there was Stacey Coons was convicted of something, but it was minor. I think he did some time in halfway house. It was very minor. So that was the first thing. And then even at that time, the police departments were telling us not to believe what we see. And since then, everyone has cell phones and they still telling us, don't believe what you see. There was more to it than that. Well, what we see is officers shooting people in the back. It doesn't have to be any more than that, because if someone's running away from you, they're not a threat to you.
Correct.
Officers shooting to kill over minor things like traffic stops. Traffic stops, and they shoot to kill. They don't shoot to maim or to stop or to hinder. It is to kill. And the excuse is always, I fear for my life. I thought they had a gun. You thought Stephon Clark had a gun and he had a cell phone. This is my phone. I don't think
nothing about it says.
I don't think this says gun. This doesn't say gun. And I'm holding it like this. No one holds a gun like this. And yeah, so that's what we've been seeing. So that day that we got the verdict, I didn't think we were gonna get a positive outcome with that. But to put a damper on that, before you could just really get into the fact that there was, a modicum of justice, you hear about the shooting in Columbus.
And really quick before you get into that shooting, another video has surfaced of him doing the exact same thing to someone else.
And the Justice Department is considering bringing up charges on that. And apparently he had from what I hear, he had his knee or foot on someone's neck, a 17-year-old neck, like 17 minutes, and he bragged about
Yes. Yeah.
it. He's on record bragging about it. So, but they already knew that he had a long-standing history of excessive force. I don't. You think that they're just gonna stop? Like the police department, I get that you're protecting your own, but at some point there has to be some accountability. You cannot,
Hmm.
writing people up or saying it's okay, or don't worry about it, we're going to take care of it. They're going to keep doing the same thing because you are enabling bad people to do worse. You're enabling them to do, put them on administrative leave. They go to a racial sensitivity or anger management class, which is probably taught by the same people that taught them how to kill. So
Yep.
it's ineffective, and it's just something to do so that it's on record that he tried or he took the class. It's not working. It's not working. They're going to keep doing it. One guy, I'm addicted to TikTok, and one guy on there, um he was repeating something that he had heard from someone, a pundit or someone on TV, about in order to get police to be accountable, they should be licensed, because sometimes you can't prosecute them or whatever. But if they hold a license, like doctors and nurses and teachers,
Mm.
if they get fired for misconduct, that means that they can no longer be a police officer because you've lost your license to do so. If a lawyer is
Good
disbarred,
idea.
loses their license, they cannot practice law anywhere in the U.S. A
Right.
doctor cannot practice medicine anywhere in the U.S. And these are people who also have others' lives in their hands, who are responsible for someone else's life.
I think that's a good idea.
Because these cops will go and get a job someplace else. The guy
Right.
who shot Breonna Taylor, he got another job
Hmm.
in someone else's county.
And they probably was happy to hire him.
You know it.
And it's not as if you don't know that this person just shot this woman who was asleep in her bed. Everybody knows that, but you hire them so they can quit before they get fired. They can quit
Go up the
and
street and get another job.
go up the street to the next city, next county, get another job.
Hmm.
But if you lose your license, you can maybe be a security guard with a flashlight. You could be Paul Blart. That's who you're going to be, Paul Blart.
Yeah.
That's what we need more of. We need more Paul Blarts than we need police officers at this point, because the is not what we would anticipate that it is. Okay, so the way that I understand the shooting involving Ma'Khia Bryant is that she was a foster child, and she got into it with two female who were former foster children about housework. There was some sort of conflict in the house. Ma'Khia calls the police, or someone in that house calls the police, because they're saying that they really can't prove that she's the one that called 911. And there was a scuffle, can be heard on the tapes, and she's like, someone is saying, she has a knife. And what we see on the video is Ma'Khia attacking a girl in pink with a knife. The officer gets out. Within 9 seconds, he shoots her for. Um, Depending on the article that you read, the details vary about the age of the two women that were under attack, by what we see that were under attack, the motive, all of these things. I'm hearing part of it is that these were grown women, like grown women, not teenagers, but grown women. But I'm also hearing that they were teenagers. But those two females have not been identified by name yet. Um, Brandy, you said that you didn't watch the video.
No. And I was going to watch it for this show, and I really, like, really tried to watch it, but I just couldn't press play. I just couldn't.
And that's understandable because it's snuff porn. Like you are really watching someone be shot in real time.
Yeah.
And think the worst part of it for me, and I watched the full video once only, is that when I see pictures, there's a picture of her laying on the ground and you see her shoes.
Oh,
She had on tie-dye Crocs and you see her shoes. And what that reminds me, and it has nothing to do with this, but this reminds me of the shoes. I don't know which one of the girls it was, Brandy, at the Birmingham 16th Street Baptist bombing.
Mm-hmm.
And her shoes that are on display. Was it Addie Mae Collins? I don't know which of the girls it was, but her shoes are on display in the Civil Rights Museum. But if you've seen pictures of that bombing, the 1963 bombing, you'll see shoes with these little girl shoes after that bombing. So that's kind of where my head went. What are y'all opinions about the way that the officer handled that? Was it a justified shooting? Should he have shot? Should he have asked questions? Should he have tased her? What do you think?
Since I didn't watch the video, when he pulled up, did he announce himself like police, freeze?
No.
You know, anything like that?
No announcement. I'm going to tase you. Was just
he didn't ask her to put the knife down. He didn't ask them to freeze. He didn't ask them to stop. He didn't say, "Hello, police here." He didn't say anything. He literally got out of his car, looked at them, panicked, and shot. Those were his. It's literally a 7 to 9 second movement. It literally is.
So basically, almost driving up, hanging out the door, shooting.
He literally drove up, got out the car, because his cam is on. Got out the car, walked over to the side. Got out the car, shut the door, walked up to see what's happening. He saw that knife. I mean, it is seconds, and it's just.
But he didn't announce himself at all.
No.
And because he was behind her, clearly, because she got shot in the back. She didn't even know the police were on the scene, I'm guessing.
There were other police there already on the scene. They were trying to just assess it as well. Like all of them are like coming in at one time from different areas. And so they were assessing it, but his first reaction was, nobody said anything. I mean, it's just that his reaction was to shoot first. No one said nothing.
So he's seen other police on the scene. He rolls up, Ace Ventura style, jumps out and shoots her.
Ace Ventura style.
He definitely gets out the car, shuts the door, and I don't even know if he shut the door, but he got out the car definitely and pulled that gun out and shot.
No other officers, nothing.
Nothing, no.
So this is a USA Today article. Talks about a narrative from a Facebook post that came out about 6 hours after the shooting. Now, this is quoted from the Facebook post. It says, as the George Floyd verdict was being announced, Columbus, Ohio police killed 15-year-old Ma'Khia Bryant. She called the police as she was about to get jumped. She had a knife in her hand for self-defense, but when the officers arrived, it was on the ground away from her. The officer immediately opened fire, shooting her 4 times. Now, this is the description based on someone's Facebook video post, as far as what they saw.
It's crazy you're saying that, because when I originally watched the video, I never saw a knife in her hand. But then when they started posting pictures of trying to justify his behavior, I saw a knife in her hand. And I was like, I don't remember a knife in her hand, or I would have said, he could at least told her to put the knife down. I never saw a knife in her hand the first time I watched it. Right. So if she did have one, I do not recall her having it in her hand. But after those pictures came out, she has a knife in her hand.
Right. It also goes on to say in the article that the officer yells, and this is directly from the article, the officer yelled, hey, get down, get down. Seconds later, Brian lunges at another young woman who was pressed up against the car. So that's as much as the officer said was, hey, get down, get down. And then it says the video shows her swinging towards another girl, and the officer fires 4 shots. So he didn't say, hey, police, put the knife down. He just says, hey, get down, get down. Ooh. Who get down? Who are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Who you talking about?
You know, who are you talking to in this instance?
So I've heard people say that if that was your daughter getting stabbed, you would want the police to stop that person from stabbing your child. I would not want nobody to stab my child, but I also would not want another person's child to be
killed
or killed either.
And that's the argument that I've been hearing, like you, Randy, is if it was your child, you would want them to stop. But on the other end, if it was your child allegedly being attacked by two people, what would you want? Is she allowed to defend herself? My overall problem with this, and again, this is since a developing story and conflicting accounts of what happened, whether they were jumping her or she just went berserk and started attacking. It's both of those things you're hearing. But my problem with this is you didn't investigate. You didn't inquire. I get, and people are saying it happened so fast. Right. It happened quickly. He got out of the car and he shot her 4 times. That's how quickly it was. You didn't shoot her below the waist. You shot here.
And why is the first instinct to shoot it to kill? Why can't it be tasering? And I get it. I get it. If that was my daughter, I would be like, dang, you get her off of my child. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit there and tell you pull out a gun and kill her. Like, what was your first instinct to kill her?
Just like that other case with the young man who it was a white girl and it was the black boy, and I guess the girl and the boy, I can't think of his name right now, but they had gotten to a fight and the girl came home and she looked beat up, and so the mom calls the school to and the police because this boy beating up his daughter. They go to the school. They think he has a gun in the bathroom. We don't know for sure if he had a gun or not, but he didn't have it out. If he did, he didn't have it out when the police were there. And they end up shooting him in the school bathroom. And she's like, I'm worried about, I called because I was worried about my child. My child was beat up, but I didn't want him killed.
But also this,
wow.
The reason why he had the gun, and I don't know the young man's name, the reason why he had the gun was because the father threatened his life. The girl's father said that he was going to come up to the school and threaten.
He's protecting himself.
I'm protecting myself. The police said that he shot them, that he shot one of the officers. No, the officer was shot by friendly fire. He was shot by his partner. So you lied because you knew he didn't have a gun out. You knew he didn't have a gun out. When basically at this point, you call the police on someone black, they're gonna die. Please, please, please understand that if you call the police, we're probably going to die.
So what would you do in that situation? Though your daughter comes home with plugs of her hair out, face busted. Her boyfriend did it.
They did the right thing. I think the parents did the right thing. It's the cops that failed.
The right thing by calling the police and calling attention to it. But this is the thing. This is alleged because everything is alleged until it's proven. You don't know who beat that girl up. I'm not saying that he didn't, and I'm not condoning it at all. So let's just clear that up. But do we kill people on suspicion? Is that what this is? Are we allowing the police force to be judge and executioner? Like he's accused of the crime. What you do is you apprehend him. If in fact the boy pulled out a gun and he points it at the officer, that's a whole nother ballgame. That's a whole nother discussion.
Well, they thought he did, but it was themselves shooting each other.
But they were shooting each other. And then you lied about it because there's no need to lie about it if what you did was justified.
Mm-hmm.
So there would be no need for you to lie about it. That boy pulled that gun out and pointed it at us. When it was actually your partner who did that. We shot him because he shot at us. No, you shot him and then your partner shot too. And he ended up shooting you. When is there an investigation? Um, Dante Wright. Uh, there are all these instances where there's no investigation. It's shoot first. As a matter of fact, Isaiah Brown. This was on the 21st. There are two shootings on the 21st. One of them is Isaiah Brown from Spotsylvania, Virginia. Craziest thing I've ever heard. Isaiah's car breaks down. He's 32 years old. His car breaks down. He flags down a deputy. Deputy gives him a ride home, y'all. Isaiah gets home. He starts fighting with his brother over his car keys or whatever. Something like that. So he called 911. He's like, you guys need to get somebody here. You better get someone here right now, and blah, blah, blah. And so he tells the 911 dispatcher, I'm about to kill my brother. The dispatcher says, don't kill your brother. He says, all right. And then the dispatcher says, why would you say something like that? And he says, someone needs to get here quick. Well, the 911 operator dispatches an officer. Guess which officer comes back? The same one who just dropped Isaiah off at home. Mm-hmm. Isaiah is outside with the cordless phone. The officer says, okay, so this is from the article from NBC Washington, NBC4 Washington. It says Isaiah clearly told the dispatcher he did not have a weapon more than 90 seconds before the deputy arrived. The deputy was situated nearly 50 feet from Isaiah, was never threatened, and should not have discharged his weapon.
I'm gonna go look for this quote I saw in that article that pissed me off.
They thought that they thought the phone on his ear.
He said that he had a phone. He has a gun to his ear. And he's telling him, put it down, put the gun down. He says, the officer shouts, show me your hands, show me your hands, show me your hands now. Show me your hands, drop the gun. He's got a gun to his head, drop the gun now. Stop walking towards me, stop walking towards me, stop. The deputy fires, then begins CPR. Brown was
so my thing is, if you think someone has a gun to their own head, you just gonna speed up and send them to glory a little bit sooner than what he had planned on going. If he had, if he had a gun to his head and was trying to, to commit suicide or whatever, your idea is to go ahead and be like, okay, well, let me go ahead and finish him off since that's what he's trying to do.
But the irony of the whole thing is you just dropped this man off. So you have a tiny bit of familiarity with this guy. So if you're the one who took the call, you could say, you know what? I was just there.
Thank you.
And I'm quite sure that Isaiah introduced himself to you when you gave him a ride. Because I'm quite sure the officer's not going to give somebody a ride. He don't know his name. You probably got his license number, everything. So at that point, you have some sort of camaraderie, or, you've established a connection with this person because you were talking to them in the car. Hey, Isaiah, what's going on? When does this look like a gun to your ear? Because a gun to your ear is this, not this. This is flat against my face. How is this a gun? And the dispatcher said, he doesn't.
I was just thinking, like you just said, like, okay, we literally just rode in a car together. I would think that we have some kind of enough connection to where when you come to my house, you be like, hey, what's going on? Like, what's up?
Going on?
What's happening? I trusted you enough to ride in my car. So, what's going on? What's the matter? Like, what happened? Or anything.
They haven't released part of the tape where Isaiah was on the phone with the dispatcher, but they haven't released the dispatcher with the officer or the deputy. They haven't released that. He shot 6 times. Isaiah was hit 4 times. He's still in critical condition. But again, where's the investigation part? Where is what's going on? What's happening? It's shoot first, ask questions later. Even in the most unnecessary circumstances, it's a shoot first thing. And that's the part that I don't understand. I'm not saying that if someone is pointing a gun or a officer is in immediate danger, then yes, they have to defend themselves. But in some cases, where's the training to investigate? And where is this? And going back to Ma'Khia Bryant in the video, and then even in the, if you look at the still pictures, the girl in the pink is pushed up against the car, but Ma'Khia's in front of her. She really has no actual physical contact with the girl. And I'm kind of like, was she already injured and she couldn't get away? Because she looked pretty fit. Uh, you couldn't slide down. I don't know. I've never been in a situation where someone's trying to stab me, so I don't know.
No. I mean, even in the video, you can definitely tell that she was fighting off more than one person. That because when the officer got out the car, she was fighting another girl, and then she moved to another girl. So she was obviously fighting more than one girl. So, but you're right. In the still photos, there is actually no physical touch, none. So interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. And the this is one thing that I heard, and I was completely disgusted by it. There was a black woman on a video, on a viral video, who said that the officer was justified because, yes, she was swinging that knife. And how was he to know that she was 16? Because she looks like a grown woman.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I was disgusted by that is because black girls just who have the opportunity to turn into black women, we have a lot of problems. But black girls are not allowed to be little girls. Black girls are raised like chickens for KFC. Grow up quick and off to market. Plump them up, make them look good. Black girls, typically black women we have certain features, and sometimes they're overdeveloped. And I believe it's because of the food that we eat now, that these girls nowadays are so overdeveloped. When I was growing up, if you were 9 years old, there was like 3 girls in your class who had breasts when you were 9. I was one of those kids who had breasts. Everyone else.
Me too.
When I was in school. You know what I mean? Girls typically didn't get their cycles until they were 12, 13 years old. There were a few exceptions, but nowadays these kids are 8, 9 years old on their cycles. They have boobs, they have butt, they already have these shapes, and I think it's because of the food. However, it's not her fault the way that she is built. And it was like the blame was on Ma'Khia, and maybe that wasn't the woman's intention, but what I heard was that the blame was Ma'Khia's because she looked grown, therefore her punishment should be as a grown person.
I mean, that shouldn't even be the punishment.
Thank you. What does that even have to do? What?
Why was that even mentioned? So I was like, ugh, that's kind of disgusting to me that that's something that you mentioned. She looked grown. And I told you, Brandy, that it's funny that we use that was said, but when it comes to a situation with a pedophile or a young girl with a grown man, we say, well, why didn't he check ID?
Wow.
Yeah. She looked grown, didn't she? She looked like an adult. Why would I check ID? But she looked like an adult, so why would I try to de-escalate this when she looked like an adult attacking younger people?
Mm-hmm.
So is that part of the justification because the Ma'Khia looked grown? Like that's not even the problem. The problem is that what led to her death, the issue that happened in that foster home, and what happened in the days preceding is what led to that girl's death. Yes, he put the nail in the coffin, so to speak, but what happened to bring Ma'Khia and these girls to the point where she felt like she needed to defend herself against 2 people with a knife? And what were all the other adults doing that it came from in the house to outside?
to where everyone's watching. Everyone is watching in the whole neighborhood. Everyone has video, like everyone has video from like beginning to the end. So I'm like, why is everyone just standing around? Like no one's trying to figure out what's going on. Where's the parents? Where's the adults?
Foster mother.
Where is she at? The grandma, she coming down the street screaming. So I'm like, what is going on?
The way it's told, part of what I'm getting is that the two girls that were also in the incident, for the two women, females, young women, I don't
Whatever.
know, they were former foster children of the foster mom, and her name was like Tanya or something. They were former foster children, and they had come into town to visit for her birthday, for the foster mother's birthday. And they made comment about Ma'Khia and the cleanliness of the house, and this is not the way mom likes it here, or whatever. Listen, and Ma'Khia made the comment like, you're not my guardian. Basically, leave me alone. And I mean, that's typical teenage behavior. Like, you're not my mama. What you talking about? You don't even live here. But there's also stories that these girls have been coming back and forth to the house for a couple of days with the intention on confronting Ma'Khia at the behest of the foster mom. Again, this is what I heard. This is speculation. This is not all. You can't come at me for this. This is what I heard. That's the word on the street. But that they have been coming back and forth to the house. There is a Facebook post that I found. And this, again, this is a Facebook post. I sent it to myself so that I would. Okay, this is from on Facebook. Um, the girl's name, because this was a public post, was Lashonda. I'm still saying Lashonda. So this is on her Facebook page. She says she said, I went to the memorial yesterday and spoke with Ma'Khia's family and friends. Those girls, one was 28, was a 28-year-old adult, had come to
Wow.
Ma'Khia's foster home 3 days in a row trying to fight her. The foster mom is the one who had the girls come fight Ma'Khia, claiming she was unruly. Everyone in the entire house was against Ma'Khia, and when her father came, she finally felt safe enough to come out and fight. Um, let's see here. Ma'Khia's little sister is the one, and I'm just going through the one who made the 911 call 3 days straight, all by herself. Um, and then she goes on to say, I'm sure Ma'Khia was extremely scared, but felt she had to be brave and protect herself by any means necessary. This information hasn't come out in the media just yet, but if the investigation is done properly and there's transparency, you will hear all about it. That's in part of what Miss LaShonda wrote on her Facebook page.
And you know what? That actually doesn't sound. I'm not surprised because even the girl that's in the pink when everything happened, when they asked her about it, I mean, she was like, well, she attacked me and they did what they had to do.
They got her, she said.
Yeah, they got her. I'm sorry. They got her.
The foster mother was a little frosty.
She already has seemed a little.
She was a little frosty as well when they introduced her. There was no really outpouring of emotion that this girl that was in your home and you were caring for was shot in your driveway.
And she already was a little. So now you tell me that story.
Yeah, her account was very mad.
And we'll know when everything comes out. But
yeah. But that's the thing is that I won't say that the shooting was justified, but given the circumstances, I don't see that there was any other outcome. I don't see that there would have been any other outcome. But she called her father. Her father is there, so that's when she said she felt a little break. But how do you get to that point? How do we get to the point where she calls the police, and when she's on the phone with 911, why didn't it stop there? Why didn't the foster mother or the father stop it right there?
Right, I'm dragging my child. Like I'm dragging my child.
You know, how could
no contact with the dad, and maybe he thought he would get in trouble. But I mean, at that point, it's like, no, I'm you deal with the consequences. Like I'm taking my child.
It's and that's why it's hard to talk about things that haven't really like gone the course of an investigation, because we don't know. We're just sitting speculating, talking about what we think happened and how it could have gone differently. But again, I don't think the outcome of this would have been any different than it is. I don't. I don't necessarily think it should have happened, but I don't think that anything other than her being dead was going to be the outcome of this.
Right? Because as we all know, I mean, police do not follow protocol. They always seem to, not everyone, but most of them seem to be threatened at all times. And I'm like you, Brandy, I didn't see the outcome being any. If anybody told me the story, I would have automatically assumed she was killed
Yeah.
because based on everything. They saw the knife immediately. Immediately, they're gonna shoot. So yeah.
Mind you, I seen a video of a man trying to stab a police officer in a
Yes.
and he was able to be arrested and taken in. I mean, he's wrestling. I think it was he was wrestling with the guy. Basically, the guy was like trying
his hardest to stab this cop, and the cop is bobbing and weaving, and you're able to apprehend him without injury or incident. Amazing. The police chief or whoever gave I think it's the police chief or commissioner in Columbus, said that yes, an officer is allowed to use force against a third party. So not necessarily that someone is threatening an officer, but if they feel like the person is threatening someone else. That seemed to be the situation. But here it is, that this girl was being attacked by two people. So I'm the one who's calling the police because I'm feeling threatened, yet I'm the one who's going to die.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we are right now. That's the world that we live in. Yesterday on my way home, I get off really early in the morning, and I was work downtown. So I have to come down Commerce every morning to get on the freeway. Now, if you guys are familiar with Dallas, Commerce and 35 is where the sixth floor, well, it's Elm, I'm sorry. It's Elm. So I'm coming down Elm, Commerce is on the other side. Coming down Elm Street. And that's where the sixth floor museum and where JFK was assassinated. So there's a big X in the middle of the street.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 3 lanes. You can go left, you can go straight, which is going to take you south on the 35, and you go to the right, it's going to take you north. Well, right in front of the sixth floor museum, well, right past it, there's a little memorial park, and a lot of there's like a homeless camp right there. So I did see a guy who looked like he was coming from that camp. Now, mind you, it's 6:45 a.m. But I saw this gentleman who was laying on the grass. So the guy is on his back, and he's in a sleep pose. Now, he looked Hispanic. He was clean. I'm going to tell you exactly what this man had on. He had on white Air Force Ones, a pair of crisp white Air Force Ones, crisp white crew, like socks, some blue shorts, and he had like on a greenish windbreaker. But at 6:45 in the morning, he's laying flat on his back on this little grassy knoll area. And his hands are flat on the ground. So he's just really flat, and he has one leg out and one leg bent upward. So he looks like he's asleep. But again, it is 6:45 in the morning in downtown Dallas. It gets cold. So I'm thinking, is he asleep? Is he sick? Is he dead? I don't know. And my first thing, I can't stop because I'm in the middle lane. Should I call 911 and have them go check? But then as I'm thinking, if I call 911 and he's sleeping off alcohol, a drunk night or whatever, he wakes up and he gets belligerent, are they going to shoot him? And if I go home, I'm done with the situation, and I hear on the news, man gets shot downtown Dallas after he wakes up drunk. How am I going to feel? So we live in a society now where you can't even call the police or the ambulance to do welfare checks on people because the potential of violence against them.
That's sad.
I just gotta keep going because hopefully the man wakes up, because I can't even show concern because I don't want his potential death, to be on my conscience. Think about Tatiana Jefferson in Fort Worth with 2 years ago when both them John got shot. Right after that, like a week later, she's in her own house, and the neighbor calls for a welfare check because her door was open. They shoot her through her own window. The neighbor was like, "I'll never call the police again." Same situation with Ma'Khia Bryant. She calls the police for because she's being attacked and she dies. And the people that was attacking her are like, well, she got, she had a knife. Now they got her.
I hope they come back and everything.
I just, it's just at this point, it's just
I mean, because like it once it get out who they are,
yeah,
they gotta worry about it. The police doesn't matter at this point because you gotta worry about us. We are the worst.
Yeah.
And you gotta worry and dealing with us, and then for her to be so bold and cocky and not really care,
like, oh well, kind of thing. Like, wait, it's just hard. It was hard. It's hard to see. I understand, Brandy, why you didn't want to watch the video, but it's very hard to see someone be shot, especially a 16-year-old girl be shot. It's very hard. And I think that's why you have people on both sides of the fence right now. And everyone is talking. It's on it's on everyone's mouth right now. Like everyone is talking about this. This is why we talked about it today, is because I felt like we kind of had to, at least to see what our opinions were, where we are with this. I have a daughter. Jackie, you have a daughter. And I have to put myself in both situations. And here is my opinion about that. This is the way I think. If my daughter goes to someone's house,
I bet we got the same opinion,
and she gets hurt while she was at somebody else's house, starting some mess, why were you over there? You went to somebody else's house and got hurt. Guess what? You should have started shit.
That was exactly what I tell somebody. I'm like, what were you doing over there?
You defend yourself at home. You don't go to somebody else's house and start some shit. So
100% agree.
That's just, that you were doing something you didn't have no business doing. So why were these girls there? I get that, the foster mother says that they were visiting her. They don't live there anymore. Shut your mouth. You can say, well, mama don't like, but you can't force that girl to clean that house. And if it is true that she was using them to intimidate that girl, now what does that mean for the investigation? Now what does that mean for this shooting? Is it still considered justified if they were in fact bullying her or attacking her? Does that mean that the justification for the shooting changes? But we don't know because y'all didn't investigate nothing. You didn't shoot her in the back of the leg. She would have had a hell of a limp, but she'd have lived. She would have lived. But she was immediate, and I get it. She had a knife. But if I'm defending myself, what else am I supposed to do? If I'm under threat, what else am I supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? Are we just at a point where we just take our chances with everything and just say, don't call the police, we just gonna duke it out, and if we die, we die? Like I don't understand like what hope we have with getting any sort of help when I might die.
Very simple.
It's to that point. And like I said, we had on Tuesday was the verdict, the Derek Chauvin case. Ma'Khia Bryant is shot and killed on Tuesday. Andrew Brown from Elizabeth City, North Carolina, was shot by a sheriff on the 21st. Also on the 21st, in Spotsylvania, Virginia, Isaiah Brown is shot by a deputy that he had just been dropped off by. Every day before the verdict and after the verdict, it was Adam Toledo, it was Dante Wright, It was the young guy, the young boy in the bathroom at school. When does it stop? When do we like we can't have that many scared fucking cops, y'all? Nervous ass cops. Like we have to do more training to become a nail tech. Put the fingernails on somebody than these guys do in police academy. You mean to tell me that adding acrylic in gel to someone's nails is more important? I need a whole year of instruction and 600 plus hours of instruction, and I have to take a state test. That's more important than y'all handling a gun and a taser and the lives of the community.
I also saw a video of a cop that was, and it was a white cop who was doing the comparison between pulling out your taser and pulling out your gun. It was on TikTok. He said there's no way.
Because they're on two different sides, you know.
He's like, first of all, there's a light that comes on. He's like, they weigh two different. They weigh completely different. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just his main thing was like, it's getting to the point where no one's going to trust us. No one wants us around. He said, I have to be careful about what I do, what I say. He said, I'm a good cop, but people automatically assume that my first instinct is to kill people. He's like, and it's because we're doing things that, you know, are coming off a little racist. So,
and you know, a lot of people say don't play the race card, and I didn't in this case with Ma'Khia Bryant say anything about race. Well, other than her being the, you know, black girl bodies not being able to grow organically. But as far as him being white, her being black, I didn't bring that up because at this point it doesn't matter. As far as that part goes, I don't want to talk about that in this particular case. But when you think about other cases where, like you said, the cop that was being stabbed at was being stabbed at by a white man, a full-grown white man. Y'all apprehended him. All these mass shootings and those the suspects who have been apprehended have been white. They killed 25 people.
I don't see no rough housing, nothing. They take them to get something to eat.
Y'all walk. Yet someone who gets stopped for a traffic violation, he doesn't walk out of there. It's a body bag. And this is the problem. And I would like to know, honestly, are there black cops who do this? Are there black cops?
They're certainly charged and convicted.
Thank you. If they do. I mean, my uncle's a cop. He's been a cop forever. He's a detective now. And when I don't ask him because I'm scared our opinions are going to differ, but he will not. He said, I don't support Blue Lives Matter. So that lets me to believe that he thinks this is ridiculous. It's just out of control. Yeah. Completely out of control.
I just, if you're saying that, if you look at it, like you said, Randy, if it happens with a black cop that shoots someone, especially someone white, they are prosecuted. There was a cop, I think it was Minnesota or Michigan. There was a white woman that he shot. He shot a white woman coming out of her house. She was a little bit belligerent. He shot her. He was convicted. She was from Australia or something, like she was an Australian national citizen. He was convicted for her murder. I think that by and large, black cops who shoot white victims or white people in commission of a crime or whatever, they're scrutinized a lot harder than a white cop with a black suspect. I don't know why. Well, I kind of do, but do y'all get the same training? Because if you're getting the same training, I don't understand why the black cops aren't scared.
Right.
Why aren't the black cops threatened? Are the black cops or the brown cops talking to people? Do they have a different type of relationship with their community? Are the black cops policing in their own communities? Is that the difference? Where white cops aren't aren't say for instance here, it would be crazy to get a cop who lives in Plano to police South Dallas, but that's what happens. You don't know
Um,
South
yeah,
Dallas
my uncle policed on St. Augustine.
in the Grove.
St. Augustine is, is in the hood.
Yeah.
And he said that what helped him with his career in general was being a real life local in the community, being able to be like, hey, better don't be doing that. Now don't be doing like he had a reputation of pulling people over
Mhm.
and telling them, now you ain't supposed to be driving through here like this. Some of my friends had got pulled over by him. It was like, man, he is so cool. He's like, because I needed to build a rapport so they can trust me, that I could take care of them. Yes.
But if as a cop, if you have somebody riding in the neighborhood, you're gonna stop and say, "Why are you riding through this neighborhood?" Well, I live here. What you mean? I live here. Well, I've never seen you here before. Okay, because you don't live here. You don't live here. That's why you don't see me here. And then it's a problem because, or you're getting angry. Yeah, I'm getting angry because you stopped. And then it escalates, and then we're on the news again. I don't know if that's the problem or the continuing ongoing problem where cops aren't in the neighborhoods where they should be. Because you don't know us, you fear us. I don't understand. Because the black cops don't, as far as what we see, the black cops don't have the same problem.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think that the outcome would have been different if it was a black cop who responded to the Ma'Khia Bryant incident?
I do.
What about you, Brian? Do you think it would have been different?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he just said, get down, and he shot her 4 times.
My thing is, he didn't even talk to the other officers who were already on the scene.
And if the other officers were already on the scene, how does she still have possession of that knife?
Whew, that's a good question.
If there were already people there, why does she have possession of that knife? I don't get it.
Like, are they just standing around watching, or?
And again, this is also going
coming up on the scene as soon as he was, but I mean, clearly they weren't coming out with guns blazing.
And that also goes back to all the adults there. Like, why did she have this knife? Why didn't you guys stop her?
Matter of fact, once he shot, I mean, when I say an officer was there in a split second, was trying to revive her immediately.
He's standing off.
I mean, I'm talking immediately.
But he shot her was off to the side.
Yeah, and then the lady was off to the side.
Yeah,
the officer lady cop, they just off to the side.
Who assisted her?
You're right.
This entire incident is a failure of everybody in that girl's life. I'm sorry. Everybody needs to be held accountable. Everyone who knew her and was intimate with her in that house, from the foster mother to the father, there is some level of accountability, not guilt for everybody. There's some level of accountability that everyone needs to have and to accept for this child's death. Because more than just that cop getting there and shooting her within 9 seconds, it was everything that led up to that day, that moment where she had to grab that knife and either defend herself or attack. Something led to that. And at some point, no one stopped it. At any point before the cop got there, someone could have intervened. Was it fear because she had the knife? But what about before she got the knife?
Well, her father was there. Why? I don't understand why her father didn't do something. I understand that she's fighting other girls, but that's your child. Like,
and you have a knife. If you're gonna go outside and fight, do this right here. But you have a knife. At that point, that changes the game. So one of those, even if, say for instance, the police had not been called at that time and one of those girls was hurt or killed during that fight, just the fact that she had the knife escalates a charge. It changes the entire game. changes the entire game. So
Yeah, that's why the officer thought he was.
adult.
I guess that's why the officer thought he was okay in doing what he did because of
Maybe everyone felt threatened by her. That's what I'm saying. Everyone failed her. I've seen a comment that said that if she wasn't in foster care, this wouldn't happen. But I think that's reaching a little bit because we don't know why she's in foster care. I wasn't able to find out why she was in foster care. But apparently, parents might not have been able to take care of her, and maybe she had some behavior issues before. But again, if she had behavior issues that sent her into foster care, then she should have been in a foster home that was prepared to take care of those behavior issues and protect her against her triggers if she had them. Give her the psychic care that she would need so that she could deal with them. None of that was mentioned in any article that I read. That she was under doctor's care for psychological or behavior issues. None of that. So if she had behavior issues, was she getting help? If she had behavior issues that involved other people, why would the foster mother bring other people into her space?
Yeah.
Why would you bring people into her space? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why would you do that? Like, I don't allow people to agitate my dog. If there are people who come to my house and my dog is triggered by them, I'll be like, hold on, let me put him outside or let me put him away because he's triggered. You agitate him. I'm not going to allow you to agitate my dog. So there's no way in hell I'm going to allow you to come in a house where you don't live and agitate someone who lives here. Whatever the agitation is, whether it's minor, if it's big, if it's malicious or not, you trigger this person. Do not talk to her. Leave her alone.
Simple as that.
Simple.
It's literally that simple.
This is, I'm trying to be in my heart. I really want to be fair to the officer because I'm not an officer. I don't have to make those decisions. I hope that what he did that day was out of the intention to protect who he thought he would protect. Hope that was the intention. That he did that because he really thought I am protecting someone who's down. I hope that was his intention. But on the other side of that is I think it was too much. You shot her 4 times. You shot her 4 times. You meant to kill her. Meant that. Whether it was protecting someone or stopping her, you meant for her to die. And that's the part that I can't really rock with. Is that when they shoot to kill and they mean for you to die. I don't think anybody deserves to die like that. I don't. And people might get mad at that. And if you do and you have an opinion about it, that's fine. That's cool. I'm not wrong, you're not wrong, because neither one of us, no one other than the people who were there and involved in that have anything to do with it, really. We're just talking about it. So if you're different from mine or from Brandy's, from Jackie, that's fine. Put that in the comments. We're not wrong, you're not wrong. We're just really talking about what we feel about a certain situation. Don't get butthurt. I ain't talking directly to you because I don't know you. I'm not meaning to offend you.
Yeah, you still gonna get you one, but it's still gonna be a comment. No matter how many disclaimers we do, that this is our opinion. We're just discussing our opinions. No matter how many times we say this,
but I
will still be
there. Because people, the world that we live in right now, everyone is offended by everything and everyone internalizes everything. So even things that you see on TikTok, on Instagram, everything, you feel like they're talking to you. But here's
everyone is sensitive. Babe, this nation is sensitive.
Hypersensitive. And here's the thing, if I didn't tag you in on a post, I'm not talking about you.
I'm not talking about you.
I'm not talking to you. I'm just talking. So basically, right now, and in almost every show that we do, our audience, you guys are getting like a ringside seat to a conversation. That's it. That's it. You guys are getting a ringside seat to a conversation. Again, if we misspeak, give incorrect facts, just hey, just let us know in the comments. But like, hey, that actually happened in 1851, not 1837. That's all. You ain't got to tell us we stupid. You ain't got to tell us we're uh you're giving incorrect information. Well, I'm sorry, it happens. But basically, you guys are getting opinions. I try in every single episode to put the references to articles, to movies, to other videos in the notes so you can see where we're getting the information from. If you want to know if we didn't put that in there, if you want to know, just ask, and I can definitely tell you what article or what newspaper I got it from, and I'll give you that information. But at no point are we trying to be malicious. You can never take words back. So once we put it out there and
Sure
once
can't.
shows are published, we can't take what we say back. Um, I mean what I say, but and I can't take it back. So I try to be as careful as possible not to be mean or malicious because unlike most of us on the internet, Ma'Khia's family is still there. This is a fresh wound. So that's why we try not to talk about fresh stories other than the things that we find on outboards, crazy stuff we find on the internet. We try not to talk about fresh stories because it is the wounds are still so fresh and open and lots of people are still affected by what we talk about. So we try to talk about historical things. Things have been, out of the news for a while because maybe those people aren't there anymore. To hurt, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and definitely not the feelings of Ma'Khia's family, Isaiah Brown's family, Andrew Brown, or anybody else that we talk about. But for the rest of y'all, get out your feelings. We ain't talking to you. We're not talking.
Please.
Get out your feelings.
Okay.
All right. So that was our crazy episode, different episode talking, just giving our opinions on what we think happened. Crazy stories. This just happened a couple of days ago, so I'm quite sure that we'll be talking about this next week and the week after and the week after and the week after, and also talking about what kind of sentence Derek Chauvin is going to get for the murder of George.
Hmm.
I think that is going to be the thing, the tipping point. His sentence. He can get several years or basically a slap on the wrist. I mean, think about Amber Geiger with Botham John. She got 10 years.
Mhm.
And the heifer has nerve to want to appeal that sentence. So, and she got 10 years because his brother wanted to show mercy.
Mm-hmm.
Child, mercy is God's gig. That ain't mine. That's not my racket. That's not my ministry.
And
Mercy,
that's okay, but
because I wouldn't have been on
I
that
don't
case
have to
for
be.
10 years. Then who? Bet you we won't be getting no 10 years for this. Well, his brother wants to. His brother's not on this jury.
You
Nope.
don't speak for the family.
He don't speak for the family. It's beautiful that he's that
That
spiritually.
is beautiful.
That's beautiful, but that ain't got nothing to do with me. She wouldn't have got 10 years.
Nope.
And the thing is, she's appealing a 10-year sentence for murder. She's a convicted murderer.
Oof.
Appealing the sentence. So it's going to be interesting to see. The only cop that I think that got any significant amount of time was the cop from was it South Carolina who shot that man in the back. He got 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was federal case though. I think that was a
Yeah.
federal indictment. So maybe that's why he got more time. But we'll be talking about Derek Chauvin and also Amber Geiger, see what happens with those cases in the sentencing phases in the next couple of weeks. But in the meantime, we just want to thank you guys for joining us. If you have any questions, again, info@blackcoffee.com, Instagram and Facebook at Black Coffee Crime. Go ahead and take a look and see what we're going to be talking about in the future. And, let us know of any interesting stories in your neck of the woods. And we'll definitely talk about those things. So, again, thank you guys for joining us. Be safe, be kind, and enjoy that second cup. We'll see you next week.
Bye.